Thank you for joining our event. I'm Jan Karpus, the president of the INSEAD Innovation Club in Belgium. And today we'll talk about AI. What is AI? It's the buzzword these days. Is it buzzword or is real breakthrough? This is the conversation. So of course, it's a topic which is impacting virtually every sector, every industry. And within our companies, probably every business function at process level, at personal level, at business model level. So I thought it's a really timely discussion to have and look at it from an opportunity point of view, from a challenges point of view, but also because we are not the academic center, we are mainly a bunch of entrepreneurs or business people. Let's have discussions about what does it mean for us in terms of opportunities. How can we leverage AI?
C'est toi qui en as fait.
Okay. So that brings me, before I introduce the panel speakers, in terms of house rules, this session will be recorded. Please keep yourself on mute and post questions in the chat. And if we have the opportunity, I'll ask you to address the question yourself live. So the aim is to make it as interactive as possible and as relevant as possible for each of you. So today we'll have Mahmoudi, the co-founder of NEXT, business platform integrating AI, and Sami Granfers, co-founder of Automate.video, who is from my intake, December 07. Moody is, of course, an alumni, but a bit younger. So welcome. Please introduce yourselves in a few minutes, your own, but also a brief of your company and what is exactly is AI for your company. So maybe we start with Moody.
Sure. So Jan, thank you so much for organizing this and having us. It's awesome. Hello, everybody. I'm Moody, the co-founder of NEXT. I'm 11D MBA, so a few years after Sami and Jan. After school, with a classmate, actually, my co-founder is also 11D MBA, Ronnie. We just dabbled in trying to play around with some technologies. We didn't really, we knew we wanted to do something, we weren't sure what. That something turned out to be a product discovery application. So Next is an AI-powered product discovery application. Teams use it essentially to engage with their customers, collect, consume, and act on customer insights while they're building products. So our customers are typically large organizations, teams within large organizations building digital assets. And so we happen to be a Microsoft scale-up fall of 2018 company as well. So we had exposure to OpenAI very early on in the cycle, so last summer actually, and started looking into what they are doing. Of course, when they told us OpenAI, we're like, open who? Like most of the world. So until we went and learned more a little bit about what they were doing. And what we realized very quickly, and the role of AI in our company is that when you talk to customers in this phase of product discovery, trying to do user research, understand the needs, understand their ambitions, understand the frustrations, you have a lot of unstructured data and tons of unstructured data. Let me give you a metric. A 1-hour call with a customer translates into a 21-page transcript. Who wants to read through 21 pages of a conversation with the user? I mean, it's just, it's mind-boggling. And 1 hour is nothing. You need to do hundreds of these in order to really be on top of what your customers want and truly build something that captures their imagination. And of course, the perspective of what's happening in AI today, I would be more specific in the large language model space, right? The text-based approach of AI, it's like a gift from the heavens for unstructured product discovery. So what we're doing is we're applying these large language models to our to the process of discovery, helping our customers accelerate, of course, their discovery flow, but also unlocking amazing opportunities for democratizing not the practice of research and product discovery, but the data, so that essentially there is no more decisions made in a product team based on assumptions, but they're all made on customer insights. That's what we're doing.
Great. So would be curious to find out more, but let's turn to Sammy. Please, Sammy, introduce yourself and your startup.
Thank you, and thank you for organizing. And this is very cool to be here. So, as you mentioned, from 07D, and also my co-founder is on the same 07D. So, but we didn't start right after school. We started this company 10 years after school, roughly. And thinking, we thought, how do we use already at that time use AI and automation to help companies communicate better. And Automate.video is a product that creates engaging videos out of corporate documents. So it can be PDF or presentation, and automatically, just by uploading the presentation to our tool, you create an engaging video where the video is or the presentation is presented with an AI virtual presenter, which is a human-like presenter. And we also used OpenAI's ChatGPT or the language models. With the presenter GPT, we can create automatically the speech for the AI virtual presenter. So all you need to do is upload a presentation, and then by extracting what you have there, we create a speech, and then we present it with the human-like virtual presenter, and you get in a few minutes, you get a video that you can then share. And a big use case is corporate training. It can be training about instructions like COVID. It can be training about new product releases, product updates, or it can be training for employees about how to put things on a shelf. And we have customers across all industries, mainly SMBs, medium-sized companies, and
I think there's an issue with your mic.
We started developing. Yeah, of course, this has been developed for a long time before the ChatGPT became the big name. But now, with the help of that, creation of scripts is fully automatic. Can you please, mute your mics if you joined the call? But okay. That's what we do. So we turn corporate documents to engaging videos with just uploading your existing PDF or presentation.
Thank you, Sammy. So let's start a conversation with the two of you. We prepared a few topics, but also we'd like to ask the audience to post some questions in the chat. As I mentioned, ideally, for me, the best events are those which are highly interactive. So let's start with the very basics, like what is AI? I mean, I remember Jay Cohen, our accounting professor, was saying, like, explain it to me like I'm a 4-year-old. Moody, you're on unmute. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm very inspired by what Mark Andreessen wrote Tuesday. So Tuesday, Mark Andreessen, I don't know if any of you on the audience had a chance to read the post. He wrote a, I don't know, 6,000, 7,000 word piece about AI. I guess this is his second take on, software is eating the world 10 years ago, and now I guess AI is eating the world 10 years later. And I think in that he gives a very beautiful, elegant definition of AI, which is essentially, math and computer software applied to learn and mimic human behaviors in order to generate content. In this case, of course, we're talking very much about text, right? I was very inspired by the simplicity of it. I think he goes on to make the case by saying that it's not, it's just going to come alive as much as your toaster may come alive. So essentially, it's just code and math. I mean, that's what fundamentally AI is. They have applied this code and math on a large body of content and material and data generated by us humans, which is why it behaves like humans, because it is learned from humans, right? If it had learned from something else, it may have behaved differently. That's also part of maybe what is making it so awkward to us. because there's some other thing that is not a human that behaves like us. So people are like, huh, what's going on? But fundamentally, it's just math and computer software applied to large body of data from which it is learned through multiple sequences, and gotten to a point where it can generate, based on that know-how and learning, new content. Well, new, something we think is new, but most of the questions have been asked and answered in many times. But at least it can respond to those needs in a coherent, cumulative way.
Thank you, Modi. Sammy, what about you?
Yeah, I think that was very beautifully said. So it sounds like human, but it's not really human. It's a technology that can generate insights that look like that it's a human generating them. But we are not talking about Terminator destroying us here. So it's just a technology that is very good predicting what we are actually asking when we are asking a question with existing knowledge built in the world. So.
Okay, so let's keep it on the optimistic side. Let's discuss what is the value that AI could bring to us in terms of efficiency, business opportunities, challenges, solving challenges.
Yeah, I think it's many of us have played with the AI, ChatGPT. So I think that's something that at least most of the people I have talked, or almost everyone says that they found it useful in something. They found it inspiring, or it was surprising them. So it's not going to change everyone's work today, but I know lots of professionals who are using AI tools in image generation or in the ChatGPT in their everyday tasks. So the productivity increases for your personal, professional work, I think they have been surprisingly huge. You get them, the whole thing was introduced less than a year ago, and people are using it all the time. More than 100 million users with OpenAI's ChatGPT today.
Okay. I mean, look, one thing that I find very interesting about, what it can do, and, there's been a lot of content, a lot of point of views written about this, is, it does what we do, right? I mean, this learned from us, so it can do a lot of the things that we do. Probably not everything, and probably not the new things that we can do, because of course those new things don't exist, so it couldn't have learned those new things. But the things that we know how to do, I mean, it knows how to do. So the opportunities for value across all of these sectors are just humongous. If you think about education, if you think about business, if you think about healthcare, I mean, all this kind of stuff that we do, for which we don't have time, we are stressed for time, we run out of attention or patience because we are all imperfect humans. Well, that thing can actually do perfectly with no food and no sleep and none of those things, right? So, I think from that perspective, it's amazingly powerful because it can really backfill humans. And I'm very, I want to be very specific about the word backfill, not frontfill, backfill humans, so that a lot of the things that we are having to carry, a lot of the burdens that we have to carry, may that be in our personal lives or in our professional lives, that can be backfilled by AI and freeing up a tremendous amount of brain power for us to be able to do much more creative, new things that we just don't have time to do. I mean, I was really taken back by the piece by Mark Andreessen, where he even talked about, the impact of AI in warfare. And I think his argument in warfare was that, less people will die if we have AI-assisted warfare, because a lot of the decisions that humans make during warfare is under stress and lack of time, and we make mistakes. And those mistakes just, there's an opportunity to get rid of a lot of those mistakes. Think about diagnosis, right, in medical care, right, when you're trying to diagnose diseases or these kinds of things. It's all the same kind of stuff. It's the imperfection of our humanity, our brain, because it likes to do new creative stuff and not repetitive, boring stuff, that actually makes, is our Achilles heel. And if we have an AI assistant that can support us, it would be tremendously helpful. Think of education for children, right? That kids can have an AI assistant that has ultimate patience. It never runs out of patience. It will always be there. It will always provide the right information. It's amazing the opportunities that we can have to bring this into our lives, to advance our personal and our collective, well-being.
Yeah, it's easy to see that there will be so many changes. Maybe not next year still, but in 5 to 10 years, like every doctor having a personal or assistant knowing everything about your medical history and helping them to ask the right questions. So the education actually, maybe that's the fastest industry to change because it's already changed. My kids are using ChatGPT and every school actually in the world needs to adjust somehow how they work with the AI and how they make sure that kids learn, and then everyone can have the personal assistant. So there will be changes, and in some industries, of course, they are happening already today.
Thanks, Sami and Moody. Let's actually switch gears and ask a question from the participants. So maybe, Lena, it would be better if you can address it yourself to make it a bit more interactive.
Thank you very much. So my name is Lena. I'm just about to go into potentially a fully funded startup incubator under the guise of Expertise, which is sort of an AI-generated matching tool that helps companies, high-growth companies and corporations to enter markets successfully. So my question to you, both presenters and co-founders, is how did you go about building your minimum viable product, your MVP, to incorporate artificial intelligence?
Yeah, whoever wants to share their experience.
Yeah, it's like this. You have started building the product long time ago, and of course there have been different AI tools available all the time. So I still think even with the AI, you need to start with the problem of the customer problem that you are going to solve, and the AI is a tool. It's lots of these AI tools like the OpenAI ChatGPTs, it's easy to incorporate technically them by using the APIs. But the thing is that for most use cases, we really don't know yet how to use them. So I would say it's they will, for startups and for bigger companies, it's going to be an exploration for many years to come. So we just need to get on it, implement it, test it, and it's a lot of iteration how to get most value of that. So it's not an easy path to kind of you just integrate something and get value. It's usually you try, you fail, and you try it. So it doesn't change what is it building a business before AI. Moody, do you have a similar take?
Yeah, no, I totally agree with you, Sami. I think, from our case, Lena, it was very similar as well, because we actually had a product in the market. So we had customers who were using our product in order to do, customer discovery and user research and these kinds of things. And of course, as I pointed out, it's very manually intensive because it's very data intensive as a function. There's lots of unstructured content you have to go through. And when we started looking into this, so we were introduced to this via Microsoft and their partnership with OpenAI. And so, of course, we found the opportunity pretty cool. Connecting to the OpenAI API is, that's the easy part. You just, connect and you get going. But that fundamentally what we realized after having done that is that actually it's, every day 100 tweaks that you need to make in order to get it actually to work. So for example, from our case, one of the ambitions we had was how can we help you, product people or user researchers, for example, auto-analyze a 1-hour call with a customer, right? So, of course, the first time you feed the data to the AI, it gives you back a bunch of crap, right? Be like, okay, this is not the most important thing. So then you go back to the prompt and you're trying to tweak the prompt and you're trying to figure out how can I use this thing? Then the idea for us was, do we have the prompt summarize the interview and then we use the summaries in order to create insights? Or no, we actually let it find the key customer moments, no summaries, because of course summaries reduces the context. It cuts out the details, the great details actually that most often are the most eye-opening. So I think it's really just through trial and error of understanding what is our use case what do our users need in order to be able to make product decisions better, and what can we request from OpenAI in order to actually accelerate or deliver on that. So, I mean, there are a lot of other use cases where summarizing a call is fantastic. I mean, but that's a different use case, I think, rather compared to what we wanted to do. And I think we just needed to learn these things and try them out. One of the other things that we learned through this process, Lena, is, and I think Sami pointed this out, is stay close to your customers and users, right? So we realized that we had customers who would upload their customer interviews into Next. So we would do speaker ID, language ID, and then transcription. And then they would copy paste the transcript into ChatGPT and then ask ChatGPT to analyze it. And then they would bring that back to Next. And so, engaging with those users who were kind of on the fringes of the forefront of what they was doing, and they were hacking our product, essentially. That's what they were doing. We go to them and understand what they were doing and trying to understand, well, what do you bring back? And why do you think this bit is important? And why do you think it did a good job here? And why do you think it did a bad job here? Learning from them allowed us to truly, bring the product up to speed. It took us about 2.5 months. So, we got exposed to OpenAI via Microsoft in August-ish of last year. The first beta went out late December. We went into full production in mid-March. So all of our enterprise customers now are in production, Bosch, Canon, Deloitte. It's insane, actually, to have, because most people are just talking about POCs and hacks about OpenAI, about AI. And I'm like amazed that we have this stuff in production in some of the largest companies in the world. And it's really cool.
Thank you. Can I just follow up on that? Both of your business models, is it SaaS?
Correct.
Yes.
At least ours is.
Yes. Too.
Okay. Great. Thanks, Lena, for the question. Again, I think discussing practicalities, maybe it's more relevant for us as a group of insiders rather than discussing the theory of AI, right? So let's jump to another question. I see it's quite interesting from Francis. But again, Francis, if you address the question of yourself, it will be better.
Hi, super clear. When I hear you talking about AI, I hear a lot the word assistant. And I have a branding and creative agency where I'm positioning about creating new things. And we use quite a bit of AI, of course. We use ChatGPT, we use Midjourney, we use DALL-E, all those programs. And with the text programs, I'm pretty impressed. With the visuals, I'm less impressed because it's clearly that comes a lot of the gaming industry. And my question is, we use it as assistance. We don't use it for a final project, for a final result, like for a final new brand or for a final new positioning. Do you think that will happen? Because until now, I'm not impressed with the results. I think it will improve. At least the mediocre will go higher, but the super creative end results, I'm not yet. I don't see it's there yet.
Yeah, I think my experience and following the industry and talking to people is very similar, that for kind of you get some good results many times, but kind of if you talk about super creative advertising work or ad work or that storytelling, it's not yet there. It seems to be improving like very fast. So I'm sure the level goes up. And in those cases, I have heard people in advertising agencies, for example, use it as the storytelling when they are doing a proof of concept, finding what's the case, what's the story. It's very easy to create assets when you just ask, I want to have this kind of a character, and then you have something that you can show. But then the final work is very often done again. But I would say in our experience, our videos are used a lot of in corporate or like training. And there are like scripts created by ChatGPT. We have given our tool there's an opportunity to edit the thing. So if you are not happy with the summary and the story created by ChatGPT, you can edit it and then create it as a better quality. But in many cases, it's pretty good. So not in every case, and there are use cases where it's fine, but they are not videos that are shown in TV ads or something. It's shown to a small number of employees maybe, and the need is that you need to create them. You need to create them at scale. You need to update videos maybe every week. There's something new happening, and you need to do a lot of stuff. So in those use cases, I think we will actually reach the final production level, but it's different that maybe you do in your
of course we want to have exceptional work and exceptional creativity, and like pretty good is good for giving ideas or for giving like short presentation, but not for the end result. Modi, you have something to add on that?
Yeah, look, I think honestly, Francis, I totally agree with what Sammy and you guys were saying. Yeah, but that's what I was also saying earlier on, the backfill part. So, let it create your inspiration gallery, right? We do this internally, right? I don't have to go spend my time on the web trying to figure out what the inspiration gallery for a new design that we want to do in the product, or a search box or a chat interface or whatever we're trying to build in the application. We use it to do the inspiration gallery, but then, people actually have to do the creativity part, which is what you were pointing out. But I think, to Sammy's point, there's also cases where, the final deliverable is coming from AI, right? For example, if I think about our tool, a lot of our customers, for example, use, they say, hey, based on, for example, the interviews we have done this week, identify all the key pain points and then write user stories for Jira based on those user points, right? So we actually generate that. Yeah, is the user story perfect? Is it beautifully written? But it doesn't matter, because what matters in product development is speed. Right? The one that solves the customer problem the best and the fastest is the one that's going to win, not the one who writes the most beautiful user stories in Jira. Nobody cares about that, right? So I think it's really about your use case and the value flow that you have as you bring that to the customer. That defines, are you comfortable with the output coming from AI or not? And I can understand that in your case, you may say, no, this is actually that exceptional part of that the human needs to do. And then you would take it there, and I can totally see that.
Okay, super, thank you.
All right, we have another question from Michelle. I hope I'm pronouncing the name properly in the right language, about medical decision making. Can you address the question yourself, please?
Sure. Thank you, Johan, and also for organizing this webinar, and for Moody and Sammy to give us your time. It's highly appreciated. So yes, well, I'm a seasoned digital health entrepreneur in tech, and as you know, you just cannot find a new startup now that will want use AI or ML as a buzzword, 99% of the time being buzzword and not really substantive. But my question is the following: is I've been intrigued to see, ChatGPT version 3 passing a medical exam, and at that time falling in the 10% percentile, really failing the test, and then claiming 6 months later with GPT-4 that, for the medical test, they're now at 90% success rate of a medical exam. So my question is the following: is, let's put aside all of the regulatory and adoption barriers and whatnot, but strictly on the technical side, what do you see as the limitations of AI to get to a point of medical judgment on a situation? In other words, kind of replicating the blink, as Ladwell would say, of how do you summarize so much information plus the judgment of a human being in a medical decision, because that's actually where we're going.
Yeah, I mean, happy to take a crack at this, Michelle. So look, I think, I guess there's two issues here, right? Really, in terms of limitations that at least that we have come across, and we're not a medtech business, so I also talk with caution in trying to answer your question. But I think there's two issues we have found. There's one which is the performance of the model, right? So the point you were making, GPT-3 crap, GPT-4 90%, right? I think there's a question about the performance of the model, and obviously I think it's gonna go bananas, I think, companies like OpenAI or whatever, the closed circuit ones, the ones who are kind of like the cartel of these people, they have access to a certain amount of data, which today we think, ooh, lots. But I think the open source AI models that are going to come, who essentially have access to 10x, 100x, a million x more content because of the give and take that they're going to establish with the community, are going to have, you're going to see a million more performing model, million times more performant model than what you have in these closed circuit ones, because they're going to start hitting barriers of people not wanting to give them data to train the model. This is what's going to happen, right? And so, one is the performance. So I think it's just going to get better and better. And if it doesn't pass today, it will pass tomorrow. And over time, it's going to make itself into more mission critical use cases where, actually the cost of missing something is very high, is life and death, or these kinds of situations. So, I don't know if today I would be comfortable, even as a consumer, but I'm pretty sure that my son, who's 2 years old now, will probably be very comfortable, maybe even more comfortable with an AI making the decision, because at least he knows that the AI didn't wake up on the wrong side of the bed in the morning, right? And isn't having house problems, and his kids are not at home and sick and he's worried or whatever, in one's personal life. So that was one thing. I think the other issue that technically, I'm leaving, adoption regulation out, is an issue is this, the limit capacity we have on the amount of data you can send to the model. So I don't know if you guys have heard, but, for example, OpenAI on the, on OpenAI GPT-3, you can only send what they call 4,000 tokens, which is, I don't know, about 3,000 words or something like this, right? And then, 4 now is 32,000 tokens, so it's more, right? And then, Anthropic is 100,000 tokens. Okay, fine, right? So you have these different limits. But essentially, one of the things, Michelle, that we have noticed in our work is the more context you give to the model, the better the result you get back. So if you have these limits on how much context you can give to the model, and let me just personify that with an example from my business. If I can't send the entire content of a user interview to the model because I can only send a limited amount, and that I essentially have to summarize or define these critical moments so that I get into the package that I can send to the model, meaning cut out context, then of course the performance is going to be lower, because it's making judgments and decisions on a smaller amount of data than a bigger amount of data. So I think as enterprises, we are going to have this problem of how are we going to be able to handle these limitations that these providers give us in terms of how much data we can submit to the model to get an answer back. And I think there's a lot of innovation to take place there. And I would imagine that in cases like medical or whatever, maybe the amount of data, amount of context, amount of data points that needs to be submitted in order for a diagnosis or whatever to come back may be bigger than the limit. And saying, hey, I'm not gonna submit this person's, for example, history from 5 years ago because it's less important. I mean, are we really comfortable with those kinds of stuff? I'm not sure. So I think there is a technical barrier today with regards to these limitations that exist on those models.
This is very helpful. Thank you so much. If I could just follow up with a very quick follow-on question. Will there be a way with an AI to basically segregate the information as it pertains to peer-reviewed data coming from peer-reviewed journals versus the kind of lay press medical information versus just a fake news? COVID-19 is the prime example there.
Yeah, I think it's
sorry.
Yeah. Just I fully agree what you said, and I think regarding the performance of the models, will it just increase hugely, because there will be models that are use case specific, and also healthcare is not my field, but also there are companies building specific models for programming, helping developers write better code, and the same will probably happen in other domains, and those will then. You will get rid of some of these limitations, and you can better address the quality of what is the value, kind of quality of the data. Is it peer-reviewed journals, or is it just some random dude on internet giving some advice? You just exclude that stuff from the model. entirely. So, and in that way, the end result will be that our kids might be more comfortable with the AI doctor than the real doctor for those reasons that they don't need to sleep at all. But that might take some time.
But just adding to what Simon was saying, look, we think about this every day. Exactly the point you raised, Michelle, which is source. What's the source of the response? This is very, very critical. I mean, I remember the first time I used ChatGPT, besides the silly use cases of shorten this email, lengthen this email, translate this text, this is just simple stuff, right? I mean, this is stuff on the fringes of the value proposition that AI offers, where we know what the answer is. We just don't want to we don't want to go through the pain of doing the work. That's it, right? But ask questions where the answer could be controversial or is unknown, right, or surprising. I want to know what the source is, because if I'm surprised and I need convincing, I mean, based on what are you giving me this answer? And it's very critical to surface the source. And so, for example, what we try to do in our company to address this issue, because our users have asked for it. Users say, hey, should I build the chat, the search box like this or like this? Well, we give you an answer. Okay, is this answer based on what Joe said or based on something Bill said? Because Joe is not a very good power user, and Bill, I actually trust his opinion a lot. And if you can't surface that data, then I can't trust the answer. It's just as simple as that, right? When it comes to critical stuff, you just can't trust the answer if you don't know the source of the data. So we try to overcome that by surfacing it, and I think these models will have to get to a point where they can tell you what the source of the response is.
Thank you very much.
Thanks, Modi. So you mentioned some challenges or limitations of AI. Let's develop on that. I mean, we talked about some technical challenges, some ethics, regulatory, organizational. Let's take them one by one and try to think what are the challenges and how to overcome them.
Yeah, the one challenge that is in the newspapers is that the AI lies to you, basically. If you talk to ChatGPT, you might get an answer. It's very convincing, but it's total bullshit, because it was just very it was thought that it's most likely answer, or it found the source was some unreliable internet pages. So it's a very good tool as long as you are able to verify the result, or at least you can have someone to verify the result. Linking to the previous comment by Modi, you need to find the sources. So that's one issue.
Mm-hmm. So in a way, that's linked to the data that it feeds on, right? If the data is not accurate, then the answer will not be accurate. But even with accurate data, sometimes they have this hallucinations effect, right?
Yeah, the models are very good at predicting what probably comes next, but the world doesn't always work like it's the most probable answer. Sometimes the answer is surprising, and if there's no information backing that up, the model cannot come up with that. So, but this is a problem that I'm not expert on that, but I don't think there's no solution to fully get rid of the problem yet. So, but I'm sure that there's a lot of work going on, try to minimize and I'm sure it can be handled in some specific domains. And I think having being able to find references in key places and making sure that the data that you train the model is valid. There are ways of going around that. But this is a limitation, for example, replacing the doctor with AI. I'm not sure. We are not going to have that yet with these models.
Mm-hmm. Modi, what's your view on this?
In terms of challenges, you mean?
Yeah.
Look, I mean, one of the ones that I find the most interesting right now is regulation. And, there's a lot of, I mean, Sam Altman from OpenAI just did a tour of Europe and went to Congress and all this kind of stuff, asking for more regulation. And I think him and Bill Gates and a bunch of other guys signed some sort of like a letter begging for the, to be regulated and all these kinds of stuff. But, it's I don't know, there's people on both sides of the fence on this. And this is obviously creating a lot of uncertainty of what the future will have here. I personally, feel that this request for more regulation is more of a business move. It's not that they want them to be regulated. They just want the government to regulate everybody else so that the barriers for entry becomes higher and becomes more complicated. And so they can carve out this AI thing for themselves and, dominate the world. Innovation and entrepreneurship, as all of us on this call has, this is what has created the future. We don't want to regulate innovation and we don't want to regulate entrepreneurship. And so I think this debate about more regulation, less regulation, is the AI gonna wake up one morning and slit my throat and kill my kids and burn my house? And it's just, I find it very difficult, to predict what the future will hold based on the leaders of the industry trying to lock up the industry by asking for more regulation from people who, largely, I would say, haven't been very good in the past or don't have a very good record of regulating technology. I mean, it's just it's a lot of uncertainty in this space with regards to where the chips will fall once the show is over around regulation on AI.
All right. Let me before we go to other questions. I was reading about the limitations, and actually one thing that we don't immediately think of is the hardware, right? I mean, you suggested that these programs will become more and more intelligent, exponential, but they need the support of lots of servers and microchips, right? Which is actually a geopolitical issue, right? So in a way, yes, open source companies might feed on more data, but I'm afraid that actually the big guys will create an oligopoly in terms of supply of the chips. Any thoughts on that?
Yeah, it is expensive, and you need a lot of servers today to run your models. And I think the OpenAI and Microsoft, they are spending millions and millions, so tens of millions a month on running the servers. But for that, I'm optimistic. I think it will go down. There is already into open source models, as Moody mentioned. They are more efficient, and that will get solved. But it might take a bit of time if we think that we want to run AIs in mobile phones or handsets and in our phone. So there is a limitation there. And what was your other question? But that's my model. I think that will be solved in due time. Regarding the big guys taking the business, certainly I think I agree with Moody is that we don't know what to regulate basically. So it's of course regulation sometimes is needed in the society, but I think it's most likely too early to come up with anything that makes sense in the long term. But for who is going to get value out of this, it's not very clear who is going to create a business that will be easy to protect, because with the help with the open source models, with the competition between the big guys, a lot of these are actually surprisingly open. Even like ChatGPT is free to use. Everyone can play with that, and you can use the APIs, and we don't know where the value actually is going to be. So I don't think it's yet proven that who is going to make a lot of money in this. It's still to be undecided. I'm optimistic as an entrepreneur, as we need to be, that we all have the opportunity to be part of this, and I'm bringing the value to lots of companies and people, and we all are going to be better because of the AI revolution. So that's my view on the topic.
Mm-hmm. All right. Maybe we go back to Francis. A question about intellectual property.
Yes. I hear you say don't regulate too much, let it be free. But what about text and images created by AI? Who has the rights on that? Do you think should it be free for everybody? But of course, as an agency, we want to use those images on packaging, etc. So we need to be sure who has the rights, or they have to be rights free. What is your vision on that? Should it be rights free, or should the rights be with the creator or with the owner of the AI? Where should it be?
Really
I mean, look,
hard question.
Francis. Yeah,
Yeah,
Sammy, go ahead.
go on, Moody. Yeah.
No, you're it's your industry very much so. So
No, yeah, but yeah, I was going to say that, Francis, maybe do you have a point on that? What's your vision? Because it's a really hard question of to how to solve it, and I haven't really followed that closely, but I'm sure a lot of artists don't want to use that their content cannot be used to train the Midjourney or other tools, and it's going to be a difficult question. Personally, I believe, of course, if you create something, you should have the rights to that, but it's all going to be mixed with AI. I don't have an answer to that. Sorry, I don't know how to solve that.
Okay.
Well, Francis, if you live in Japan, they just solved the problem for you, right? The Japanese government issued legislation that that there is no right, right? So
okay, good. Free to use.
So free to use. Yeah. So there is nobody can hold back, or you can't claim anything on the AI stuff, etc. So Japan just passed a law, I think last week actually. But yeah.
Even if it's clear that the images are, the images are based on input, and you see where it comes from. So the owner of that image, but maybe that goes too far. But
yeah, I mean, so I think there's just it's an umbrella thing they created because they felt that it's hindering the development of AI in Japan. So I think from that they have solved it. But this is just my observation. It's an observation, not my opinion. I think I would side with Sammy that if we want humanity to continue moving forward and not just sit here and only collect the fruit of the past and not continue to progress, you need to give those who create progress an opportunity to protect that value they create through that progress. Think of us as entrepreneurs. Every day we wake up, we sleep less, we spend less time with our families, we make sacrifices, we do all these things to create progress. That's what we're trying to do in the world. We're trying to create progress. If somebody comes to me and says, hey, Moody, all the stuff you do, everybody else can use, no problem at all, I'm not sure I would be open to sleeping less and sacrificing all these things to create progress. So I think I would side on that we need to find a healthy equilibrium here, where we have the ones who are contributing are rewarded for what they're bringing to the equation and advancing us all as humanity together.
Thank you.
All right. So I have 10 minutes left. We have one more question from Lina. Maybe you would like to address it yourself.
Thank you. So my question, my second question was, how have you worked with your software engineering team to incorporate customer feedback into your AI product? I don't know if you can give a case study where you've recently worked with a client and been able to incorporate utilizing your software engineering team to sort of incorporate into the product to scale it to a new level.
This sounds like a question from heaven for me. It's like this is what I wake up every morning to do. Lina, maybe I'll take a crack at this one. So so we obviously so we're a product discovery application. So what we do is we help our clients capture user feedback and then integrate that into their product. That's what we build as a product. So we help our customers do that, but of course we eat our own dog food as much as possible, and we do that internally. We have clients, as I mentioned, I gave you a few names of large corporates who are essentially bringing in conversations with their customers. May those be on videos or Zooms, and exactly the kind of stuff that we're doing right now. They bring all of that content in. Of course, nobody wants to go through that content because it's hours and hours and pages of text. We apply AI in order to analyze that data, capture the key customer moments. And of course, at some point, you have so many key customer moments that no human can actually find the right information. So what we have built that we use in-house as well as allowing our customers to do it in their own environments is we have built like a chat interface on top of the customer insights that are captured. and you can talk to your data, right? So essentially, I see my co-founder Ronnie is on the call. So Ronnie typically would go to this chat interface and then query the system by saying, hey, we have a ticket in Jira where somebody has asked us to build this feature. Is there any customer evidence on this feature? And then the system will crunch through hours and hours and hours of customer conversation and then give you back a response with then a bunch of selected clips from those conversations to serve as evidence for the fact that, yes, we have evidence or don't have evidence of customers wanting something. We do this on every aspect of our product. We never make decisions based on because somebody said we should build something or somebody wants us to build something. We only build stuff where we have customer evidence, where people are asking for it, struggling with it, or have ambitions of growth with it. And obviously that's what we try to bring to our customers every single day as well.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
All right. So I see for the moment no more questions in the chat. Let me come up with a question, which I'm interested in, since I'm following an inboard program. What do you see is the impact of AI on boards of companies? How should they react to AI?
I think the world has changed so fast with AI and it's coming. I would expect like every board member to be asking or thinking, how does this apply to our business? And then you need to, so it's not the boards as selves. I don't know about board meetings. That's not my expertise. And what should happen there? Is there an AI solution that helps there? But I would ask about thinking about the business and what's the AI opportunities. Or are there threats? There are, of course, things where AI will influence the businesses negatively, but thinking how they can utilize AI. So I think this is the, if I would be a board member where a company has not started investigating how AI will impact this business, my business, that would be my insight, that we need to think about it now and start working on it. Maybe there's no real change in the next couple of years, but if we are not like watching for it, then it will surprise us. That's my insight.
Okay. Moody, what's your take on this?
Yeah, I mean, I totally can second what Sami was pointing about with the fact that they need to be questioning and pushing, the leadership of their companies that they sit on the board on to think about what AI means for their industry, for their company, for their success, and what threats or opportunities there are in the market. So, absolutely. So I won't expand on that one. But, the other thing that I also observe on the process of the board, I mean, I remember back in the days, it was really fancy for the executive team to create really thick documents for the board because, apparently the thicker the document, the better of an executive team you were, or the more information or whatever you're providing. Obviously AI can be very good at, shrinking all of that down to just the really important stuff and cut out all the fluff. But, I also believe that entrepreneurs and executives team have now, one sheet board meetings are great, right? I mean, and a lot of people like that and are excited about that. I think the other thing that is really cool is about, being more thoughtful with regards to your industry trends. I mean, AI can create amazing insights with regards to what are the trends in your industry, what's happening, just because of the sheer amount of data that it can crunch and make accessible to you. I think, more and more boards are going to be educated, smarter, more proactive, more thoughtful, more knowledgeable in terms of what's happening in the industry of the companies that they advise, and hopefully that will elevate boards into being not people who are just there to take account of what happened and provide guardrails or whatever, but actually real propellers of growth and value to those companies. So I think there are really cool opportunities there to also help with that perspective.
Great. So we're almost closing. Maybe a last question. Is there anything you'd like to add, or is there any advice or tips you could give to alumni who want to start a business or incorporate AI into their business?
Yeah, I think we mentioned it already, at least, that it's time to start playing with the AI, and everyone can start personally playing with ChatGPT very easily and other tools. I think that's the key for any professional today. Otherwise, you are left behind. And then I would still, entrepreneurship is about finding solutions to problems people have and solving them in valuable way. AI is mostly just a tool for that. I would not look for the hype in the using the AI in the solution, but it's one more tool that we have in solving people's problems. So it's not the answer to every solution. And for example, our solution, it's huge number of code and algorithmic solutions to many different problems in creating engaging videos. AI is just a part that makes it better. And so it's one tool that we can use to improve the result, but there are lots of other stuff that needs to happen. And I guess it's in almost every company. If you are not an open AI, you need to do a lot more than just the AI.
All right, great. So let's wrap it up here. Thank you very much for offering to share your opinions in this panel discussion. I don't know if you are willing for others to reach out to you if they have any questions. If you agree, I can follow up with an email and share your contact details. So apart from thanking the participants, I'd like to thank the INSEAD Belgian Association who helped us put this event together, the Global TMT Club, which was willing to share our event in their network, and of course INSEAD France, who also supported us spreading the event. So thanks again, and I wish you a great day.